What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got top 10 draft day what ifs. Let's check this out.
Bases have hope for the future. Draft Day. Since 1936, this annual event has changed the lives of players, shifted the courses of franchises, and redefined the league as we know it. But what if these thousands of selections played out differently? Today, we break down the top 10 what-ifs in NFL draft history. Number 10. What if Bo Jackson decides to play with the Bucs?
Ooh. Nah. Bro, imagine if this nigga didn't get hurt. Oh my gosh, bro. We talking about a whole different story when it comes to like top running backs, bro. I ain't gonna lie. What if this nigga would have never got hurt?
Bo Jackson's entire sports career is surrounded by what-ifs. The 1985 Heisman winner was one of the greatest college players ever and also a top prospect in baseball. When the struggling Buccaneers called his name first in the 1986 draft, Jackson used his unique leverage and refused to sign with Tampa. Jackson instead pursued a career in the MLB, signing with the Kansas City Royals. When the 1987 draft came around the following year, Bo was once again eligible to be selected since he never signed with the Bucs. Raiders owner Al Davis was known to think outside the box and took him in the 7th round. Davis was open to running back playing
that nigga just running people over
Los Angeles when baseball season ended.
Buffalo ahead of Miami in the East, and now the Raiders, can they stay with?
Oh my gosh.
Denver stay with Bo Jackson.
Nah, that's tough, I ain't gonna lie.
Bo has another.
Bo was spectacular as a part-time player, averaging over 5 yards a carry before a career-ending hip injury. But what if Jackson turned down the opportunity to play in Major League ballparks and instead fully committed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? One of the world's all-time great athletes and Steve Young under center would certainly be enough to turn the franchise around, right? Instead, the Bucs finished with the fewest rushing touchdowns in the league from 1986 to 1990, and to make matters worse, Tampa shipped off Young to the 49ers in 1987. The franchise didn't see a winning season until the late 90s.
And Bo sort of twisted as he went down. He's hurt.
While impossible to know for sure, Bo could have avoided the catastrophic injury in the
bro, was it true that this nigga ran like a 4-1, bro, or was he just capping,
divisional round?
Because I heard a lot about that.
Jackson
Did he actually run a 4-1? Because I don't think there's no footage on that.
Scary thought for opposing defenses, as the back had the potential to become a perennial All-Pro. Number 9. What if Dan Marino didn't slide in 1983? It's the most famous draft in history. The class featured 8 future Hall of Famers and notably had 6 quarterbacks.
What if Dan Marino would have won a Super Bowl, bro?
The last one picked was some guy
he balled out in the playoffs.
And he threw for more yards and touchdowns than any of them.
The Raiders for low snap again. Here's Marino, wide open field, throws for a touchdown, and there's the record. That's number 37, and he threw it to Jimmy Cephalo.
Marino's arm talent and numbers in college should have garnered a much higher draft pick, but rumors of partying and drug use scared off teams from making the pick quarterback the face of their franchise.
He was doing that crack cocaine?
With his illustrious career now in the history books, many now ask, what if Marino didn't slide? The Raiders and Steelers were potential pairings that would have drastically changed the course of the NFL over the next 2 decades. The sun was setting on Terry Bradshaw's legendary career in Pittsburgh. What better way to succeed him than taking the hometown kid?
Oh, and he played at Pitt.
In Pittsburgh because I have a lot of family there now. I've been playing there all my life, but it might not be, realistic either.
Instead, they opted for D-tackle Gabe Rivera, a successor to Mean Joe Green. Rivera would go on to only play 6 career games before a tragic car accident left him paralyzed.
Damn.
Los Angeles had the pick right before Miami and drafted center Don Mosbar. If Marino becomes a member of either prestigious franchise, his career could have played out much differently. Maybe Marino secures the ring that eluded him in Miami.
That's oh shit.
The Steelers would go on to be in quarterback purgatory for the next 20 years. They reached Super Bowl 30 on the backs of a shutdown defense.
I feel bad for teams that can never find a franchise guy, bro.
Them from hoisting the
Ravens fans, bro, we've been spoiled with Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson, bro.
The Raiders,
you know what I'm saying?
1983, but
glad we never had to deal with that.
The door,
well,
the silver and black
at the time that I'm living, you know what I'm saying?
On a great roster due to inconsistencies behind center. Number 8. What if the Bears draft Patrick Mahomes in 2017?
I ain't gonna lie. I don't think Mahomes has what? How many rings he got? He got like what? Three rings. 2019. Okay, yeah, he got 3 rings. I don't think he ever wins 3 rings with the Bears, bro. Cause they don't have a stable organization, bro. You know what I'm saying? Andy Reid played a big part in Mahomes, you know what I'm saying, having success in the NFL.
What if today? In 2017, Chicago was determined to take their signal caller of the future, even trading away a first-rounder to move up from the 3rd to the 2nd pick.
The Chicago Bears select Mitchell Trubisky.
Damn.
Quarterback, North Carolina.
The selection was not Patrick Mahomes, but Mitchell Trubisky, who started in only 13 college games at North Carolina. Kansas City
now they got Caleb Williams. They
to get their guy, marking the beginning of the NFL's most recent dynasty. Trubisky's tenure in the Windy City was shaky to say the least. He never won a playoff game and was off the roster after 4 seasons. Chicago then drafted Justin Fields in 2021, and he started even fewer games.
They did him dirty, bro.
Off to Pittsburgh. Caleb Williams may end up being the franchise guy, but it's still way too early to call.
We'll see in his second year.
He throws it left-handed to Tyreek Hill. A first down.
Pressure now on Mahomes.
He's
in trouble.
This is before everybody started to hate him. Like, I don't hate Mahomes as a player. I just hate how the announcers and the media just glaze this nigga like he's God or something. Like, bro. Like, Mahomes a good quarterback, but they glaze this nigga way too much.
He threw for 50 touchdowns in his first season as a starter, has made the AFC Championship in 7 straight seasons, and won 3 Super Bowls. The Chiefs did not even appear in a Super Bowl since the 1969 season before 2019. Wow. Now you might as well rename it the Kansas City Invitational. Now, without Mahomes, is Andy Reid still considered a great yet ringless head coach? Does Travis Kelce still have the legacy he does? Keep in mind, the showman only had 22 career touchdowns before Mahomes took the starting role.
Double dunk.
And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
Could Patrick Mahomes be enough to take the Bears to a deeper playoff run in 2018? Sure, the offensive weapons were no Hill and Kelce, but Khalil Mack and the Bears were shutting down opposing offenses. On top of that, Bears coach Matt Nagy already had a relationship with Mahomes, being the offensive coordinator of Kansas City when he was a rookie. Chicago has a long way to go to have a repeat of 1985 and would likely have been a city of champions if they had just took a different quarterback in 2017.
I think Mahomes' career would have been way different, bro.
Throughout this countdown, there will be no position featured more than the quarterback. They're the most important and recognizable players on the field, so it makes sense that quarterbacks swapping teams would create a ripple effect like no other. What if Andrew Luck declared for the draft in 2011?
Andrew Luck was a dominant player in college who excelled in every aspect of the quarterback position.
He's a great competitor, had the intangibles. Coming from the pro-style system and winning the amount of games that he won and the bowl games that they won, he's exactly what you need under center.
Andrew Luck is considered one of the most revered prospects of the 21st century. This led to many scratching their heads when the Stanford phenom decided to return for his junior season rather than declaring for the 2011
It's still crazy
draft.
that he retired
if
early,
he decided to enter the league that year,
that's what concussions and shit will do to you,
number
nigga.
1 pick held by Carolina. Do the Colts stick with Peyton Manning? If they do, Denver can likely kiss their 2 AFC titles and 2015 Super Bowl goodbye. How do we look back at Manning's career with just 1 ring?
Newton up the middle.
Cam Newton.
He accelerates. Oh my goodness. Touchdown, Auburn.
ponder this. What if the Broncos took Cam Newton at number 2 in 2011? There's no question Von Miller was a phenomenal pick for them, but with John Elway coming
Von
in
Miller was
with
another
record
big
player
reason why they
personnel,
won the
it's
Super Bowl.
possible he veers
Because
from
he
Tim
was
Tebow.
borderline
Elway
unblockable.
was never high on the 2010
You know what I'm saying? I think he had
first
two
rounder. Maybe Cam
strip
wins
sacks.
Super Bowl 50 as Broncos quarterback. Teams like the 49ers and Vikings were also searching for a franchise QB, and either could have been his eventual
That's a rough
landing
passer
spot.
nowadays,
Could you
gang.
imagine a Super Cam, Adrian Peterson read option? Or maybe the Harbaugh-Newton combo gets the Niners over the hump between 2011 and 2013.
They still wanting to beat us in the Super
Number
Bowl,
7.
bro.
What if Lawrence
I don't
Taylor
care.
and Reggie White were teammates?
That would have been cheating, nigga. Reggie White and LT on the same team, that would have been borderline cheating. This ain't Madden game where you can just do whatever the fuck you want. That is cheating.
This pairing would have been straight unfair. Reggie
Facts.
White and Lawrence Taylor are widely considered as the best defenders in NFL history, and there was a real possibility that the two became teammates. White was a member of the dwindling USFL in 1984, and that year the NFL had a supplemental draft with all of the league's players available for the taking. The Giants owned the 3rd overall pick, with the Minister of Defense still on the board. New York heavily considered drafting White.
I know I had a particular interest in Reggie White, but we wound up taking Zimmerman.
But instead, the Giants selected offensive tackle and future Hall of Famer Gary Zimmerman, but he never played a snap for Big Blue. With just Lawrence Taylor, the Giants still captured 2 Super Bowls on the back of their vaunted front 7, but if they take White, maybe New York is the team of the 80s rather than San Francisco. Combined, the two amassed 330.5 sacks throughout their careers.
God
Defensive
damn.
mastermind Bill Belichick would have been spoiled with talent, ruining opposing quarterbacks Sundays for a decade with this duo.
Reggie White put it
That is terrifying to like think about, bro. Reggie White and LT on the same team.
See, when Larry Allen picks
Oh,
that
shit.
left foot up, that's when Reggie does it. It's that right arm. See, when
Clothesline that
Larry
nigga,
Allen
bro.
picks that left foot up, that's when Reggie does it.
Yo,
Fast
nah, that's
forward a
tough.
bit, would White still sign a free agent deal with Green Bay in 1993? With all the potential success he'd have in New York, maybe he stays put and forms a ferocious pass rush duo with Michael Strahan.
Oh, shit.
Or perhaps White inks a deal with the Browns in 93, then coached by Belichick. Does Cleveland's playoff campaign in 1994 turn into a Super Bowl run?
Cleveland
Number
and
6.
Super Bowl
What
in
if
the same
49ers
sentence?
draft Aaron
Never.
Rodgers in 2005.
Never.
There may be no draft day stranger than the
I'm
one
surprised
for
Niners
Aaron
didn't draft
Rodgers.
him, bro, 'cause
Long
isn't he
discussion
from,
with Alex
San
Smith for
Francisco?
the number 1 selection. Rodgers
Or like just from
not only
Cali
didn't get picked
in
first,
general?
but he fell all the way to 24.
And a lot of people did not have Aaron Rodgers as a top 10 quarterback. He has flaws. He has blemishes.
The Green Bay Packers select Aaron Rodgers, quarterback in California.
Smith's career in San Francisco was far from
A-Rod still got a
perfect,
ring out of
just
that.
18 starts through his first
4
6
MVPs.
seasons. However, the 49ers brought it all together in 2011, finishing 13-3 en route to the NFC Championship.
Alex Smith.
He will take it himself for a first down and more.
Damn.
It's in. Touchdown.
The following year, Smith started 9 games before getting injured and witnessed Colin Kaepernick lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance and take his starting role.
Yo, Colin Kaepernick's fall off was crazy, bro. All because he wanted to take a knee.
In the end zone. It is caught for the win. A game ender for the Packers.
As for Mr. Discount Double Check, he did just fine in Green Bay, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Rodgers won 4 MVPs, has the highest passer rating in NFL history, and brought a Lombardi trophy back to Titletown. If there was a stain on Rodgers'
almost
career,
broke that
it
record
is
last year.
ironically his
Passer
0-4
rating shit.
record in the playoffs against the 49ers, who passed on him back in 2005. So if Rodgers went first overall instead of Smith, what happens? In this scenario, Smith falls to the pack, now learning under Brett Favre, and Rodgers is thrown on the field right away. The 49ers roster was still not a good one back in 2005, so it may take longer for the quarterback to get comfortable and succeed in the Bay. Once Rodgers is paired with Harbaugh, is he enough to get San Fran over the hump from 2011 to 2013, with Alex Smith having the benefit of sitting the bench
Still Still had to go through us,
does he
nigga.
develop into a much better quarterback with Mike McCarthy? If he remains the same, Super Bowl 45 is not represented by the Cheeseheads, but by the Chicago Bears. Somehow, once again, the Bears drew the short straw in a draft day what if. Could you imagine Jay Cutler with a Super Bowl victory on his resume? Number 5. What if the Colts draft Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning in 1998?
Oh boy, that would have been the biggest mistake ever, bro.
Potential to be stars for a long time.
Ryan Leaf was a huge draft bust.
Ryan Leaf brings just a ton of natural talent. What you get from Peyton Manning right now is a wonderful, polished athlete. Both of them bring a lot of assets to this table. I think both will fit very well with the team that they wind up with.
With the benefit of hindsight, this could very well be the funniest draft day debate in history. Okay, Colts fans, you need a quarterback, and your options are one of the greatest quarterbacks the game has ever seen, or maybe the biggest draft bust in history. It's ridiculous to look back at it now, but in 1998, the question of Manning or Leaf was legit. Manning was considered by many the best college prospect since John Elway. The Tennessee Volunteer amazed scouts with accuracy and IQ rarely seen at the collegiate level. Leaf was coming out of Washington State, and his live arm and large frame had front offices reconsidering if Peyton was really the best quarterback available.
The thing about Ryan Leaf is he brings a swagger to the game. There's an upside to Ryan Leaf that nobody's quite sure of. The only question you have is how long is it going to take for him to be able to be comfortable at this level?
I'm glad they didn't take Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison sounded way better than Ryan Leaf to Marvin Harrison.
And broke endless passing records along the way. Leaf went second overall to San Diego, and he completely flopped.
Leaf inside his 5. Let's go, and it's intercepted. And it's Percy Ellsworth with
a line drive right to him.
It is a touchdown for the Giants.
Don't look at us like that, like it's our fault, ain't.
4-14 with the Chargers and was out of the league by 2002.
We're gonna try and look up at the camera like we did.
And drafted Leaf. Needless to say, it would have been an unmitigated disaster. The franchise is still probably looking for its first title since 1970, and we may never witness the true greatness of Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne without a competent passer.
Wayne,
for
so
the Chargers,
underrated, bro.
while Manning definitely changes the culture, it means they probably don't play themselves into a top 5 pick in 2001. No Tomlinson and definitely no Breeze as those future stars end up elsewhere. It also reroutes Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, but more on them later. Chargers fans would no doubt still take this deal, but it drastically shifts the careers of NFL legends. When it comes to what-ifs, maybe no team has been in more draft hypotheticals than the boys down in Big D. Here's a trio of honorable mentions that just missed the cut. What if the Cowboys drafted Walter Payton? Holding the second overall pick in 1975, Dallas had
the Cowboys drafted Walter
Payton and on the defensive line. Available for the taking was Jackson State back Walter Payton, who went on to rush for the most yards in the history of football.
Quick pitch to Walter, looking for the record, cuts back,
Damn. Oh shit.
25 to the 26-yard line. Walter Payton
becomes
the National Football League all-time leading rusher.
I ain't know Walter Payton was like that. The only thing I know him from is the Walter Payton Man of the Year award and shit. I ain't never watched him play.
As they drafted Randy White,
I ain't know bro was like that.
Earned a gold jacket, but man, oh man, imagine sweetness with a star on his helmet. Perhaps the '75 Cowboys get the best of Pittsburgh in Super Bowl X, Peyton's rookie season. Suddenly, the team of the '70s is up for debate. This potential selection also results in Tony Dorsett finding a new home, with Dallas having no need for a running back in 1977. What if the Cowboys drafted Johnny Manziel? Sometimes the what if.
I ain't gonna lie, if Dallas drafts Johnny Manziel, that means probably no Dak Prescott. Cause I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all. I think if he would have went somewhere other than the Browns, he would have succeeded in the NFL, because the Browns, they don't know how to grow quarterbacks, bro. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to draft them and, you know what I'm saying, build them up and shit. That's just not something the Browns have done in their whole franchise history, bro. So if he would have got drafted by the Cowboys, he might have done something.
path, and
but he didn't help himself out by not watching film and partying and shit.
Enthralled by the idea of selecting the Texas A&M legend Johnny Manziel in the first round, but the team instead pivoted to the less flashy Zach Martin.
And he got a Hall of Fame right of that.
To have a Hall of Fame worthy career on the
offensive this year
line.
Too.
While Manziel, well, let's just say his career did not live up to expectations.
At all.
A lot of time. Stepping up in trouble.
I'm not going to put all the blame on him, though. Most of the blame, yeah, because he didn't watch film and he partied too much, but Browns, they just don't know how to,
selecting Dak Prescott 2 years
what's the word I'm looking for,
or
bro?
does
I can never think of that
end
shit.
up being a draft day steal for another team? What if the Cowboys drafted Randy Moss?
The Minnesota Vikings have selected wide receiver from Marshall University, Randy Moss.
This one still stings for Cowboy supporters. In 1998, Dallas had a chance to find their successor to Michael Irvin and immediately regretted the decision to do otherwise. Jerry Jones' squad had the 8th overall pick, with draft analysts and fans alike pairing Moss with the Cowboys.
I don't know why. Why did Randy Moss fall down the draft board? Oh my gosh!
Due to character concerns, Jones passed on the wideout, instead drafting defensive end Greg Ellis. The Vikings stole Moss with the 21st pick, and he of course went on to have an all-time rookie season. 17 touchdowns, including 3 on Thanksgiving against the team that passed on him.
Cowboys showing blitz. Minnesota. Randy Moss breaks a tackle, and Randy Moss races down the sideline, and Randy Moss just outruns everybody into the end zone.
If Moss is a Cowboy, the legendary 1998 Vikings offense does not come to be. Could Moss's presence extend the career of Troy Aikman, ushering in one last 90s?
Imagine trying to guard that
team. Tragically for Dallas, they missed out on another Hall of Fame receiver 13 years earlier.
And it's crazy, he didn't get a ring either, bro.
What if the 49ers don't trade up for Jerry Rice in 1985?
The greatest receiver of all times.
Rice is behind everybody. He's got it. Touchdown 49ers.
He may have been the greatest football player, professional of all time.
Pass, though, is complete to Jerry Rice. He's ahead of everybody. Goodbye. Touchdown, Jerry Rice, number 5.
Can you imagine a reality where Jerry Rice does not don the red and gold? Bill Walsh and the Niners had to maneuver their way around to select the Mississippi Valley State product. San Francisco was in the market for a wideout and traded up from pick 28 to 16 for an opportunity to take one. But Rice wasn't even their first choice.
Bill Walsh said that he would trade the first 3 rounds of his first 3 rounds of the draft to get Eddie Brown. While here he is, he's got a shot.
Originally, Walsh was more interested in receiver Eddie Brown, but with the Bengals taking him at 13, the 49ers had to adjust their plans and settled for Rice. Not a bad backup option.
And they're going to go his way. And he's got it.
But who was the team picking right after San Francisco in the 85 draft? You guessed it, the Dallas Cowboys, who were also targeting Rice.
Damn!
The 49ers had stayed put.
Bro, Cowboys had a chance to draft Randy Moss and then had another chance to draft Jerry Rice. Oh my gosh, bro. That's tough.
Dallas to get
That's
the wide
tough.
receiver of their dreams.
Taylor and Rice.
Damn, bro.
The throw is to Rice. Touchdown.
First, it's entirely possible the 49ers don't win back-to-back Lombardis in the late 80s. Rice's heroic efforts in Super Bowl 23 earned him MVP honors, and San Fran doesn't win without him. On the flip side, with Rice now in Dallas, are the Cowboys in need of another receiver with the 11th pick in 1988? Maybe Michael Irvin becomes the playmaker elsewhere.
Troy Aikman, quarterback, UCLA.
Going even further, does Dallas struggle enough to draft Troy Aikman first overall in 1989? Let's say they do end up with those 2 future Hall of Famers and Emmitt Smith. Now we're talking about the greatest offensive collection ever. The Cowboys would have taken over the entire decade, likely halting another 49ers Super Bowl win in 1994. In terms of GOAT conversations, does Rice get the opportunities to break all those records, sharing touches with Irvin and Emmitt? If Montana finishes
That
with
would've
only
been
2
nasty, I ain't
Lombardis,
gonna lie.
does Aikman then become the best QB ever? The wild card here? How about New England, who picked up the phone and accepted San Francisco's offer all those years back? Number 3. What if John Elway stays with the Colts in 1983?
Hopes for a successful season were dashed in the coming weeks. The Baltimore Colts embarked on the longest losing streak in team history, 14 games.
Damn.
There was a time when the most dysfunctional franchise in all pro football lived in Baltimore. After the departure
she
of
hurt,
Johnny
gang.
Unitas, the Colts struggled to find a long-term
Yo.
successor behind center, but they finally had reason for hope in the spring of 1983. Baltimore secured the first overall pick, and waiting for them was the most hyped prospect maybe ever. The only problem was John Elway wanted nothing to do with them.
I said, I don't want to be a jerk or anything about it. That we've been telling you for 3 months that I'm not going to play in Baltimore, and right now you have nothing. And then I hung the phone up there.
The Stanford product threatened to play baseball with the New York Yankees if drafted by the Colts. With their hands tied, Baltimore eventually gave in and sent Elway to Denver. In the deal, the Colts received quarterback Mark Herman, offensive lineman Chris Hinton, and used the first-round pick they acquired on another offensive lineman.
The snap to Elway. The look, the throw, touchdown! John Elway has just thrown the touchdown to Mark Jackson, 5 yards, 98.5-yard drive.
Through Elway's elite play, the Broncos reached 5 Super Bowls, including winning back-to-back titles in '97 and '98. During the span of his career, the Colts won just 38% of their games. It's safe to say who came out on top in this trade.
This one's for John.
But what if Elway stayed with the Colts? Of course, the Broncos' success throughout the 80s and 90s would have taken a massive drop-off, especially if they end up with the second QB taken in 1983, one Todd Blackledge. Could we have seen the Browns, who lost to Elway 3 times in the AFC Championship, play in
That's
and
tough.
even win a Super Bowl?
There's a new team in town. In the heart of downtown Indianapolis lies a new symbol of the city's dynamic growth.
In 1984, owner Robert Irsay infamously relocated from Baltimore, leaving in the middle of the night to make the move to Indianapolis. If Elway was showing promise and the Colts were on the up and up, does the franchise still switch cities? And equally important, with Elway still in the league until 1998, the team likely does not have the first overall pick in the draft that year. So you could kiss goodbye to Peyton Manning as well.
The Colts are world champions!
With all this in mind, football fans in Indy should probably be thankful Elway refused to play all those years ago. Number 2. What if Joe Namath signs with the Cardinals?
The game is over. The New York Jets are the world champions. They have upset the Baltimore Colts and beat them.
Didn't Namath used to play for the Cowboys
While
too?
other what-ifs in the top 10 had the potential to change franchises, this one could have altered the entire sport as we know it. In 1965, the St. Louis Cardinals used their first-round pick to draft Alabama quarterback Joe Namath, but the
Roll
gunslinger
Tide.
instead elected to start his career in Gotham City with the AFL's Jets. Broadway Joe became an instant icon, winning
I
the
know, he got
franchise's
all
league
the bitches back
championship
then,
in Super
bro.
Bowl III. The upset win was a major factor in merging the NFL and AFL in 1970. So, what if Namath chose the NFL?
Namath's arm was in mint condition. In 1965, he was named AFL Rookie of the Year, and 2 years later, he became the first quarterback in either league to throw for 4,000 yards.
We'll start on the less drastic side of this scenario, as Namath and the St. Louis Cardinals would actually be a sneaky good pairing. The same year the quarterback won Super Bowl MVP, St. Louis was a top 5 team in the league. Replacing then quarterback Jim Hart with a future Hall of Famer puts the Cardinals in serious contention. Now, for the real domino effect, if Namath decides to play in St. Louis, the Jets wouldn't make the Super Bowl in 1968. A Colts victory would mark a 3-0 record for the NFL in the big game. Then Commissioner Pete Rozelle was already debating bringing an end to the Super Bowl experiment, and this could have been the final straw.
There was talk after the first 2 Super Bowls that maybe it wasn't such a good idea bringing the schedules together. People saying maybe the AFL isn't up to this.
You lose 3 times in a row, Jack.
Excuse me, you're out of the room. If we don't win this time, we're going to be second class from now on.
The AFL then goes under, much like the USFL 2 decades later. Franchises like the Raiders, Chiefs, and Patriots are now erased from professional football. America's top-rated sporting event ceases to exist, wiping out some of the greatest moments in sports history.
Back to throw Montana. Stepped up, throws.
Now throws it deep downfield. Wide open Tyree, who makes the catch. Malcolm Butler stepped in front of the throw.
That is wild to think about, bro. A lot of these iconic moments wouldn't have happened, bro. That shit is insane.
No Super Bowl and 10 fewer teams in the NFL, that very well could have been the reality if Joe Namath had a change of heart in 1965.
Wow.
What if the Bears win the coin flip for the #1 pick in 1970
Coin
instead
flip?
of the Steelers? 5 years.
Wait, hold. They used to do coin flips back then for the #1 overall pick. What the fuck?
Signing with the Jets, there was another battle between two teams over the top quarterback.
Unless they had like the same record and shit. I don't know.
Bothered from behind. Lynn Swan is open. Got it. Steeler touchdown.
The 1970 NFL draft can be characterized as the Terry Bradshaw sweepstakes, and there were two teams of draft can be characterized.
Damn, Terry, nigga, I know you was making mad, bro. I know this nigga had so much money. He couldn't get this shit fixed. That's tough.
As the Terry Bradshaw sweepstakes,
Come on,
and there
Terry.
were two teams vying for the quarterback's services,
How you
Pittsburgh
drop that?
and Chicago. What made this situation so complex is that both teams tied for the worst record in football, and there was no on-field tiebreaker that settled who got the first pick in the draft. As an alternative, the league held a coin toss, and Pittsburgh's win reshaped the NFL for a decade.
Deep for Stallworth.
Ooh, shit.
Touchdown for the Steelers.
That's one of the great catches you'll ever see.
If the Bears won the toss instead of the Steelers, there's a chance the dynasty never comes to be. In reality, Bradshaw and the Steel Curtain won 4 Super Bowls in the span of 6 years, while the Bears are still searching for a Hall of Fame signal caller. Number 1. What if Eli Manning stayed with the Chargers in 2004? The king of draft hypotheticals. We have the runaway storyline of the Chargers and Giants swapping quarterbacks at the top of the draft. Old Miss
I mean, that was kind of like an even trade, like if we being for real. But the Giants did kind of win that trade with Eli getting 2 rings, but Phillip Rivers broke a lot of records for the Chargers, nigga.
Eli Manning had made it pretty clear he'd refuse to play for San Diego.
Still the greatest Charger quarterback of all time.
Play for the Chargers?
We're not really giving details right now. We just we've made our decision, and that's what we're sticking to.
The Chargers call your name when I talk to you after the pick. Will you be wearing a Chargers hat?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
With the first choice in the 2004 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Eli Manning.
That nigga was not.
Clearly, Manning's position had no effect on the...
Bro, he really did not want to go to San Diego.
Select Eli Manning.
Bro, nah, that's funny as shit.
Clearly, Manning's position had no effect on the Chargers, who selected him first overall. The next hour was tense, to say the least.
The Giants confirmed to us from their draft room that if Phillip Rivers was sitting at number 4, there would be discussions with the San Diego Chargers that the Giants would take Rivers and then swap quarterbacks with the Chargers.
With the 4th pick in the 2004 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Phillip Rivers, quarterback, North Carolina State.
What have you been hearing? What are the teams telling you?
Well, I hadn't gotten a call yet from anybody. I'm just excited, as of right now, to be a Giant.
San Diego Chargers and the New York Giants have exchanged their draft picks, Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers.
Despite their roller coaster interest.
Do y'all think we'll ever see something like this again, bro? Because this is crazy. I'm not even going to lie. I think things will be different now, but That's insane.
Productions to the NFL, both quarterbacks found success in their own way following the trade. Manning and Rivers played a combined 33 seasons of football and threw for over 120,000 yards combined. Manning's legacy will always be the guy who took 2 rings away from Tom Brady. Despite a .500 record as a starter, Eli will forever be a legend in the Big Apple.
Facts. And that is it. The New York Giants have knocked off the New England Patriots with the most improbable win in recent memory.
Rivers rode the bench early on in San
Drew
Diego.
Brees.
He learned a thing or two from Drew Brees.
Wow, bro. They really had Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees on the same team. That's iconic now looking back at it.
Rivers
being that both of those guys are future Hall of Famers.
The North Carolina State product threw for more yards and touchdowns with a superior record as a starter. Rivers, though, was unable to bring home the ultimate prize, falling short of Manning and fellow 2004 QB Ben Roethlisberger in that aspect.
It's going to be an off-season of wondering what if.
Well, and more than that, I think, is what could have been.
So what if Eli stayed with the Chargers? With 2 polarizing quarterbacks swapping teams, it's tough to say which franchise would come out on top. One franchise surely in favor of this swap would be the New England Patriots, 2-time Super Bowl losers to the Manning-led Giants. Tom Brady could have 9 rings to his name, along with an undefeated season in 2007. Or would Phillip Rivers come through with New York and have his legacy altered with a pair of Lombardi trophies? Could playoff Eli overcome the Chargers' snake-bitten history in the 2007 AFC Championship? Do the undefeated Pats still make the big game against a San Diego team led by Manning? Maybe we even get some brother versus brother playoff games with Peyton and Eli now in the same conference. Would either quarterback be a step closer to receiving a bust in Canton? We will never know for sure, but it is always fun to look back and ask, what if?
Yeah, man, that was crazy. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, man, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL videos I want to react to. Without further ado,
I'ma make them feel me, make them people when they chow me. And if you don't know me, I'ma make sure that you know me. I hate to say it, but I really think I'm broke. But I know I'm chosen, I really know I'm chosen. I know I'm chosen. I was just lost a year ago, but now I'm focused. When good at sports, this microphone can be my trophy. Not taking drugs, I found a better way of coping.